Great. We are at 8:02, so we'll get started. And if more people join us, that will be wonderful. My name is Susan Migliosi. I'm one of the associate directors in the admission office at BC. And I'm really pleased to have joined us this evening for our Discover Boston series about the social transition to college. Three wonderful colleagues on our campus. And they will talk a little bit about what it's like to transition to Boston College, even in this kind of world that we're living in right now with COVID-19. But we also really want to get you all involved who are joining us to ask us some questions. So we actually use the Q&A function for you to enter any questions that you have. Chat is actually disabled, but if you want to ask any questions, please send it in through Q&A. And we really do encourage you to ask us anything and everything that you want to know about BC and kind of what it's like to go to school here and transition from high school to college to this particular institution. But with me tonight, I'm very, very pleased to have Tom Mogan, who's the Associate Vice President of Student Engagement Information at Boston College. Ratha Kong, who's the Associate Director of Student Organizations, and Danielle Date, Assistant Director of the Thea Bowman Mahana and Intercultural Center. So I'm going to have these folks just introduce themselves briefly and tell you a little bit about the work that they do with our students, and then we'll start some questions. Thanks, everyone.
So I can go first. My name is Ratha Kong. I serve as the Associate Director of Student Organization in the Office of Student Involvement. So that sounds really long, but essentially my office provides multiple opportunities for students to get engaged. We have leadership programming, undergraduate government, campus activity board, which is large-scale programming, small-scale programming. We do all the concerts. We do senior week events, and then we also do student organizations. And student organizations is my main function. We have over 200 organizations that students can get involved in, so I'm happy to answer any of those questions that you might have.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Date and I'm one of the assistant directors in the Thea Bowman Mahana and Intercultural Center. Mahana stands for African, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American descent. So that was a term that was coined about 41 years ago, where students of color didn't like the term, they didn't like being called minorities. So they coined the term Mahana to encompass all of our students of color instead of being called minority students. In our office, we serve our students of color, multicultural, multiracial, and we have a program for first generation students coming into Boston College called the OTE, Options Through Education program. And we have a lot of services, a lot of programs to help promote equity, build community, and support opportunity for all of our undergraduate students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Mogan, and I serve as the Associate Vice President for Student Engagement and Formation. And I serve on the leadership team of Student Affairs. And as part of my role, I work with the Office of Student Involvement. I work with the Bowman Mahana Intercultural Center, Graduate Student Life, our Rob Sham Theater. We have lots of different performing groups on campus. And then also our Office of Student Conduct. As part of this role, I serve as one of the advisors for the Undergraduate Government of Boston College. Just got off the phone, or just got off a webinar with UGBC and the student body, talking a little bit about what's happening on campus. And so I enjoy working with our students in many different roles. I also serve as an adjunct faculty in the history department. I teach a course every spring in the sports history. And then, but of all my roles on campus, one of my most proud one is as a parent of a senior who lives on campus. So I know what it's like to be a parent of a prospective student here at Boston College as well. So happy to be with you tonight.
And we have to say from the admission office that Tom's son is one of our tried and true volunteers that we absolutely adore. I think one of the most important things to understand about Boston College is the fact that we come from a Jesuit heritage, and that is such a key factor in the distinctiveness of the educational experience here. Academically, the focus on the liberal arts, the focus on looking at justice within education, but it also transcends to what we do in terms of student formation and transition to college. And so I think the first question that we'd like to talk about is how each of you has kind of seen Jesuit philosophies incorporated into the different programs that we offer as students are making their way as first-year students here at BC. And any or all of you can talk a little bit about that.
I can go first. We'll keep the order. So essentially the biggest thing that we do is in our office is we provide co-curricular opportunities for student leaders or first years coming in, transfer students. And the biggest thing that I would say is formation is a big part of the Jesuit value and philosophy. And through the involvement opportunities that we have with the student organizations, CAB, UGBC, leadership programming, it's all there for them to really sit there, reflect on their identity, who they are, who they want to be, and to kind of find their passion area and develop those skills. So it's a very holistic approach to their learning and development outside the classroom. And to be honest, it's really a pleasure to kind of see, you know, a first year student come into my office and talk about joining an organization and then seeing them step into a leadership role in a way that you can just see that the development is there over, whether it's a couple of semesters or even a couple of years. But it's really a pleasure to kind of be able to see that formation happen in real time on the daily with our students.
For us, I'm going to speak on the being men and women for others, for and with others. We have a few service trips in our office. We go down to Jamaica. We have a trip for students to learn about the civil rights movement. We have conferences to build on cultural competency and different things throughout the semester and the year and the summer for students to learn about race, talk about diversity, and build their knowledge on those topics. So I think our office really focuses on the holistic approach of the student, and not only yes, we want you to do well academically, but what can you bring to this world? What can you learn about yourself to, be a man, to be a woman for others? And through those trips, through those conferences, through those programs, we're challenging students to think beyond the box and to think about their identity and who they want to be once at BC and once they leave BC. It's not only about let me get a job and, be successful, but I want to be a better person in the world and what can I bring to this world that I'm living in. So that's one thing we try to encourage with our students and through the different programs and services that we offer.
I think one of the keys that Susan mentioned was this concept of student formation, which encompasses being men and women for others and student engagement as well. And I see this playing out on campus on a daily basis in terms of what is one thing that is really powerful about our student involvement program is this idea of mentorship. All of our areas have wonderful programs where students can serve as mentors for first-year students. We have both from a fellow student perspective and also from a faculty and staff perspective. The BAIC, the Mahana Cultural Center, has a maze mentoring program. They have other mentoring programs for students. Rotha talked a little bit about some of the involvement opportunities in OSI. One of the major ones is that Emerging Leaders program, where students can take a semester or a year-long course in leadership. It's a co-curricular course, but that is run by one of the staff members from OSI, but they have a team of mentors that help to run that program. And so this feeling of students giving back to each other on campus is very strong and very, very powerful, not just within student affairs. I mean, we have some wonderful partnerships with our colleagues in mission and ministry, and we have programs called the Freshman League and the Ascend program that are mentorship programs for first-year students and second-year students that they can get involved with. And so it's not only this notion of that we're here as staff members to help form students and to help their growth and development, but we work with their peers to do that as well. And even through those mentorship relationships that we have with those peers, they're growing and they're developing in their throughout their 4 years here. So it's not just throughout the first year as well.
I can say, one of the things that our students, our admission volunteers always talk about, what drew them to BC is the community, the sense that not just the mentoring that is kind of formal, but everything that happens informally and the relationships that are built. That's such a huge part of life on campus. And as we all are facing this pandemic, I think one of the big questions that parents and students might have is, how are we maintaining this kind of sense of community, this sense of distinctiveness and mission in a virtual world that we're all dealing with? Here we are on the screen right now. How are we trying to do that at BC right now? And again, any or all can jump in with that.
I think, so in my area, with student organizations specifically, we hold a really big fair. It's called the Student Involvement Fair. And we normally have it outside on Stokes Lawn. It's 300 organizations, including offices, that provide involvement opportunities for students, first-year students, to get involved. And we have to really think about, okay, how do you move that into a virtual format and still make it effective and still make it community building? And fortunately, we were able to have a platform that we upgraded with our student organization software over the summer that rolled out an ability to do an online virtual format of an involvement fair, where a student that is interested in a specific organization would go to the actual portal or the website of the org and just click meet with organization. So via like a virtual format. And it was an ability for folks to connect live without being outside in that environment, like in large crowds. So we took the essence of what your traditional involvement fair would be, meeting different members of that student organization leader, and then put it into a virtual format where they met virtually and they were able to meet with 300 different organizations. So we saw that as a very effective tool to mitigate some of that aspect of, not being able to meet in a crowded environment. And we found that it was really effective and had really good feedback from both ends, from student orgs and from the students that were participating. But to be honest, I think our students have been, and our programs too, have been really innovative in being able to kind of move things virtually, but still make it really enticing, make it really interactive. In my team alone, I think 2 Sundays ago, we hosted a training for 600 student leaders, and it was seamless. And so I think it's just really thinking about how you're branding and marketing and like reshaping how that virtual environment is going to be. But we've been able to kind of shift kind of outside of our normal way of thinking to create really innovative programs and in areas that we can support outdoors or think outside the box. One thing that we did for our dance organizations, they couldn't do their auditions inside due to the capacity. We rented out 2 tents, put it into the parking lot of the Brighton campus, and they were able to do auditions outside. And that was an easy and effective way for us to support in any way that we can. So we're always thinking and strategizing, okay, how can we shift and make things work for an environment that might be prohibitive in terms of, the policy limitations?
Mm-hmm. There's a few ways our office has been trying to still promote community and mission in our office. One way I can just speak on an event we just had, we celebrate the Ethnic Heritage Month. So Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, Native American Heritage Month, and Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And usually we would have a big celebration in the month. So this month, September to October, is Hispanic Heritage Month. We will have a big celebration with food, music, performances, a guest speaker to speak on the culture. And this year, the capacity is only 25 people in a space. So we decided to have our event virtually. And we had a great turnout. We had our students speak about their different cultures, their different clubs. We had a guest speaker. We had performances that were pre-recorded because we know how important it is to celebrate the cultures of our students, and we want to continue to recognize the diversity that exists at BC. And even though we can't be physically together in the space, we're together virtually, right? We're here to celebrate the different cultures in the Hispanic and Latinx community. Another way that we have been trying to continue to, support students and bringing them into the office. We still have meetings in person, especially with first-year students. We want them to feel at home. So we're meeting with them in the office, bringing them in so that they can meet us, meet the space, and just feel that they have that support from someone, because I'm sure at this time with COVID coming to maybe a new state, a new school, we really want students to know that we are here for them and that we will do anything to make them feel welcome. We still have events in our office with food. So even though we can't have our big events where everyone, 150 people, 200 people attend, we still want to give food out to the students so that they can have a taste of, their culture from back home. So tomorrow we're having food in the office where students can come, grab a plate. And though they can't sit in the office and eat it, at least we want to bring their culture and their home to BC. So there's a few different ways that we're still trying to engage the community. We have a few different student programs that are meeting virtually. They're student leadership programs. One is called the Women Advocates Student Leadership Program, which it's about 20 undergraduate students who are trained on cultural competency, and they go into the first year dorms to facilitate conversations on race and diversity and identity. So that's still happening. We know it's super important to continue to have those conversations, especially with our first year students. So all of our programming, even though it's different, we know how important it is to continue to have it. So whether it's making a smaller scale or having it virtually, we want to make sure that we're continuing to fulfill our mission to meet the needs of our students, despite what's happening with the pandemic.
One of the big questions that is coming up through chat that I think kind of connects to this is service is such a huge part of life for our students. It's a large activity. It's one of the major activities that our students do. Are they able to do service right now with COVID going on?
Mm-hmm. I can speak on the international trips. I know for ourselves, for Jamaica Magis, we usually have a winter trip. Unfortunately, we are not having that trip just because of travel bans and for the safety of our students. Our hope is to have a May trip. I know the same for campus ministry. They are postponing some of those international trips. I don't know if Tom, you know more about for Boston and what kind of the local organizations are doing.
Yeah, a lot of the mission and ministry programs are adapting. So some of them are engaging in online service in terms of, so for example, we have a program, it's mostly popular with the sophomores. It's called the Pulse program, and they take a course, and they also combine that with service. So many of the Pulse placements will involve online mentoring of students or online homework helping, especially with many of the schools in the Boston area going online. Students are going to need that extra support in terms of helping with their homework and their academic achievement. So many of them are going online. We also have a pretty popular program called APA that serves mostly the rural populations and poorer populations of the United States. And they are going to be also looking into how can they support these communities maybe without traveling there. Are there ways that they can learn more about the issues that are facing these communities? Is there some fundraising that they could get involved with in terms of supporting these communities, even though they won't be there to sort of physically help? So yes, service will still go on, and we just need to find ways to adapt to this new reality, hopefully this temporary reality.
And I'm happy to add on to, at least for the students that I've been talking to about service, Pre-Dental Society actually came up with a really cool technique to kind of re-envision how they're doing service. So they normally go into, it's a student organization, they normally go into elementary schools and give care packages to students and teach them how to brush their teeth, a timer, how to floss, what does healthy teeth and oral care mean? And so what they're doing is coordinating with the elementary school to do a Zoom session, but they're also just making these care packages and dropping it off with the teacher, so they can still have that interactive component, but they're thinking outside the box of how they can do that without actually stepping into the classroom environment. So like I said, they're getting really creative in a really cool way.
for me, that's one of the shining lights that has happened through COVID, is that we are becoming all much more creative and kind of flexible thinkers. And I promise our last COVID question, at least from this side, even with all the challenges that COVID has kind of presented to us all, have there been any ideas or any programs that have worked so well that you could use them in the future? Anything kind of, again, lemon and lemonade type things?
At least on my end, we've had like esports tournaments that folks have been really riled up and really competitive in a really good way. We've also had really big success with like craft, so like grab and go craft projects. So we did one with paint your own mugs. They're doing one with canvases, I think today. Those have been really successful because it's an opportunity for you to, it's really passive, pick it up, bring it back to your, your own residence hall. And then there's a video, there's a woman who actually facilitates, okay, well, if you want to do the painting with us, like an actual instructor like at a paint night. So those two events have been really, really successful. And I think that they will probably continue that tradition even moving forward post-COVID.
One thing that I see for orientation this year, instead of students coming on to campus for 4 days at different times during the summer, they were engaged the whole summer, through online. And so we created and partnered with a company to create a whole new platform for students to be able to engage throughout the whole summer. So instead of just coming onto campus for 4 days, having this wonderful experience, and then going home and then waiting maybe up to a month or a month and a half before returning to BC, they were able to engage the whole summer in a variety of activities and stay connected with their orientation group and different programming on campus. So that may be something that we might be looking at. I think we still want to go back to the orientation, type model, but is there a way that we can incorporate some of those elements in that? And then there's lots of different examples about how this online engagement has kind of taught us that there might be something here that we always talk about students with different learning styles and different skills and that might have come across more in online engagement, and so we may be able to meet more students' needs with more online engagement.
Thank you, everybody. We just got a question through the chat that a parent was wondering a bit about students who have medical needs and resources, ways to access resources as a new student at BC who has medical needs.
Sure. One of the areas that I work with is one of my colleagues overseas is the Office for Student Outreach and Support Services. And as part of that office, we have a coordinator for disability services. So anyone who has any type of medical, psychological, physical needs, those services are available for students, and accommodations are run through that office. So they're very accessible. Their information is widely available to students who are accepted at BC, and that's something that we work with accepted students right from the start in terms of getting them set up so that they are set up and ready to go by the time they reach campus. And even for prospective students, if you have any questions about the types of services that we offer or the types of things that we have, you can always feel free to give the office a call, the Office of Student Outreach and Support Services.
Great, thank you. I think we'll move away a little bit from COVID. And one of the interesting things about BC is that we don't have fraternities and sororities. There's no Greek life here. So sometimes I think people think, I know, those of us who are administrators kind of are happy about that. But, sometimes people wonder, well, how on earth do you get involved? If there's not that kind of set thing that happens that people envision of college, that you can join a frat or a sorority, how do they get involved? And one of the big things that we often say is the clubs and organizations at BC, because there's so many of them. So for each of you or a few of you, I know this is Ratha's bread and butter. We've mentioned a few organizations. What are some of the most popular kind of activities that students get involved with on campus? And then what are some of the more unique clubs and organizations that we have?
Definitely. I'd be happy to answer that. So I think a cappella, dance, and pre-professional organizations are definitely the more popular ones. But you'll see service organizations and intercultural clubs also being a big draw for the community. So I think those are the macro level organizations that I would think. But then on the unique aspect, we have so many different types of organizations. So there's one category of organizations called specific interests, and you'll find we have To Write Love on Our Arms or Active Minds that focus on mental health awareness and promotion. There's Fashion Club, there's Martial Arts Club, Outdoor Club. So there's really a gamut of really, I almost want to say like any type of organization that your student might be interested in, there's probably one that already exists. What I want to say though, you don't necessarily have to join an organization right away. You can kind of feel it out. CAB, which is Campus Activity Board out of my office, does a lot of offerings for programs, whether it's night, weekend, large scale, small scale, and also UGBC, the undergraduate government, also offers programming. So the biggest thing is really there's opportunities for you whether to get involved as a member and be part of that community, or you can just attend an event and kind of get a feel of, oh, okay, I can see myself, you know, connecting with this community. Let me figure this out even more deeper. So there's a myriad of different ways to get involved. The other thing I want to talk about is, oh, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, well, you come back to me if anything. But I hope that answers your question. There's so many different organizations that you can get involved in. There's actually like a color sheet of, I don't know if you can see this, but this is like 300 organizations right here that is just listed, whether it's organizations or department programs that are involvement opportunities for students. The list is pretty endless. It's really connecting your student to what they're actually interested and passionate about, and we're happy to facilitate that. And I always say, come to an involvement fair and just talk to us, because some of these names of these organizations might not be obvious, but we work with them so closely that we're happy to kind of navigate you in the right path of these are the orgs that you should connect with.
Student Activities Day and the fair is one of all of our favorite days on campus, because all the clubs and activities are out and they're trying to attract everybody with, you know, like food and things like that. But I walked down the special interests last year and there was the Rube Goldberg Club. So they make all those funky, you know, kind of like mousetrap type mazes and things. And I was like, man, there is something for everybody at BC, for sure.
I remember my thought process now.
Oh, good.
I also help recognize new student organizations. So if there's a organization that does not exist on campus and your student wants to come on and form that, I'm happy to talk through that process with them too. So there's opportunities to form new organizations if it's like very specific, or there's one that doesn't exist on campus yet. So there's definitely that as an option as
well. I actually attended the event that Danielle mentioned earlier, the Hispanic Heritage Month event, and two new organizations presented there, the Brazilian student organization and the Colombian student organization. So we had some new organizations who were really just excited to be a part of the community, and they also talked about how the virtual involvement fair really went well, and they got a lot of good members there. It's funny, it's not when we talk about fraternities and sororities, and I kind of cheered. You know, I helped oversee the conduct system, so I have to be happy about that. But and so oftentimes you associate friends, right, with fraternities and sororities. How do you make friends at BC? Well, it's actually not uncommon for students to say, well, I have different circles of friends. I kind of have my academic friends that I might be in the Carroll School of Management. I have classes with a lot of people. So that's one circle of friends that I have. I might be in a cultural club, or I might be in a dance group. And that's another kind of circle of friends that I have. And I may live in a residence hall, or I may live off campus. And, you know, I may have another, you know, circle of friends there. And so it's very common for students to have different circles of friends that oftentimes meet different needs for students.
And as we are back on campus, and the first year students have been on campus for, we're about 3 weeks or almost 4 weeks in now, how have people been kind of seeing how they've transitioned, again, in this very difficult time? How have they been making friends? Has kind of the natural things that we've always been used to been happening? Have we had to kind of initiate some things a little differently because of COVID? Just some thoughts on that.
Yes, I mean, it has been challenging in terms of Massachusetts in particular right now has some guidelines on or restrictions on the number of people who can gather outdoors and for indoors. And so the student organizations have got off to a little bit of a slow start because of making sure we have enough rooms for academics because we have to spread out and so forth. But the virtual involvement fair really kicked things off, and student organizations are, starting to get rolling, and so they're having their information nights, and they're starting to plan their events and programs. But the virtual programming has allowed us to engage more students than we would be able to otherwise in person. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about a minimum of 50 people that could attend an event outdoors right now, you're talking about probably 40 when you get to the organizers and the other people who are there. And whereas if you put together an online, bingo night or an online trivia night, you can get a couple hundred people there, and so it has been a little bit of a challenge, but the students are working through that, and we have seen lots of wonderful friendships formed, and we're looking forward to engaging them even further as the semester continues.
I don't know. I know, Danielle, you mentioned you've met with some students, possibly first-year students as well. Have any of them talked a little bit about, like, from orientation, the fact that they had all these kind of virtual experiences? Have any friendships? And I know social media was always, even before all of this, was a way people would sometimes hook up with roommates and things like that. Have people seen that the students who have come in their first year, have they continued these friendships that started online and now are in person?
Yes, some of the first year students who I've spoken with, I know one young lady, she created an international group Snapchat, and, they were all talking, and she found her roommate, right? She found her roommate, they really hit it off, and, they're friends to this day, and, hopefully they remain friends for the 4 years and beyond. But I think, as Tom said, it has been challenging, but I think the orientation groups has helped this summer, having those weekly meetings throughout the summer, having that one-on-one connection with even the upperclassmen, that helps them create friendships and relationships. And I think, classes, meeting people through classes is a good way to make friends. And even in the hall, I think you find a lot of friendships in your hallmates. So that's, I know, a big way that students kind of find their friend groups. I know some clubs are doing virtual general meetings. So just different ways to continue to engage community and try to promote that friendship building, whether it's through offices or just kind of informally on their own. It's still happening, just maybe with the mask on, right?
Absolutely. What are some of the topics that first year students kind of bring to you all? What are the things that they maybe are a little concerned about, and you have conversations with them about in their first year? And then, if you have any tips for how students can adjust to kind of like the social differences that between high school and college?
I think for me, as I think about my work with students, it's very specific to students wanting to get involved. It's a lot of just your own agency and navigating, like you have to go to your classes. No one's going to wake you up to go to classes, but also like their decision to join organizations is a lot of times a very personal one, whether they're attracted to the mission of the organization or they really connect with the members of the organization. But a lot of times I see that, and it's okay for you to kind of shop around for the different types of organizations that are offered, because there's so many and you might have different interests. But I always like to share that, it's better that you connect with and maybe commit to like 2 and just be active members and, be in that leadership team, as opposed to spreading yourself thin, right? Because you don't want to feel like you're obligated to go to 5 general meetings and stay connected with 5 different orgs and still have, your academics, and maybe you're also involved with something else on campus. So that balance piece is really crucial when I connect with first year students. And there's a little bit of a pressure to kind of have it all together. And it's okay not to have it all together. I'm a grown woman, and I feel like some days it's okay not to be balanced, and to admit that, you're not a perfect person and a perfect being. And so for me, it's really just like putting that perspective for them that it's okay to be committed to 1 or 2, have authentic relationships and build that community. And, you can always change later, or you can always just attend programs. You don't have to be at all things all at once, because that's that social pressure to kind of know it all and do it all. So that's really the biggest thing. I think that first semester is like finding that balance is really critical, for your mental well-being and just overall like physical health too.
For me, a few things, but I would say in regards to student engagement, just navigating university. There's a lot that BC and just most colleges and universities offer. And one thing in our office, we offer advising. And, I'm a BC alum, and I think back to my first year and, being first gen, just not knowing anything. I came in lost, I made friends, I joined clubs, and everything was great, but it was hard trying to find help, and I didn't know how to ask for help. So one thing, I try to do in my office when I meet with students is ask for help and find a mentor, find whether it's an upperclassman or an administrator or a faculty member, find someone who can help you maneuver and navigate your journey, because for some people it's not that easy. And you need that support to, help you find resources that will help your 4 years at BC be a little easier. So I think that's one thing that we get a lot, just kind of feeling lost, but that's why these offices exist, and why we work in higher ed to help especially our first year students, feel comfortable at BC and kind of learn where to find things and who they can go to for support and whatever they may need. So.
I would agree with that. I think it's, the big questions coming in are, we know they can do the work. That's why they're here at BC, and we know they're going to, do well academically if they apply themselves. And so I think sometimes it is some of that more, social stuff, like, am I going to fit in? Am I going to find my people? And that's what we ask them to be patient, to put themselves out there, to not be afraid to, sign up for a couple different things and try some different things out. But also we try to push them out of their comfort zone as well too, and say, you have, hopefully 4 years, here at BC, and you have a wonderful opportunity here to try different things. If you, we have an outdoor club, we have, a fitness center, we have outdoor recreation programs, we have lots of different things that maybe they've never experienced that, or they're from a different part of the country. And so we really want them to try to push themselves out of their comfort zone and try different things and try different experiences. Go to one of our dance club tryouts, go to one of our performances, go to a cultural club show that again, maybe doesn't represent your culture, but you want to learn more about it. And so we really try to get students to get themselves to think about, you have a wonderful opportunity here to experience new and different things, and to push them a little bit out of their comfort zone.
Great questions that just came through chat that kind of pertains to all of this. Sometimes that's really, really easy all this advice is great for extroverts. What if you're a more introverted student, and, how do we help students who are a little bit shyer, and especially on a campus that's got 9,300 undergraduates? How do we kind of engage those students?
I would say, it starts with your residence hall. We try to build communities within the residence hall. So it starts with your roommate, and we always tell, students, your roommate, could turn out to be your best friend, and it could turn out to be, just a good relationship that you have, but you have other friends, but I think it starts with building community in the residence hall. So the RAs, the resident assistants, and the residence hall association, they do a lot of programming within the halls to try to build community, to get students to that point where they're comfortable to kind of stretch themselves, from there. But also, I would say our classes as well too. Especially for first year students, a lot of our classes are very small sized, and so they are engaged in class with faculty who are taking attendance and keeping up on them, and usually involves a lot of some discussion or small discussion groups and things like that. So they can get to know their students, fellow students in smaller classes as first year students. So they have a variety of opportunities to try to meet new people, even if they aren't that extrovert to go out and sign up for every club.
We also have clubs too that are more for introverts. Like the specific interest ones that I'm thinking about, it's like retro gaming. There's a board game club. There are definitely activities like the academic organizations too. Some of them read and they talk about case studies, or there's a sports analytics club that analyzes the stats for different, like, spaceball or basketball, whatever it is. So it's not, you have to put yourself out there to do a rock climbing activity. There's so many different offerings in terms of what their interests are. One of my grad students actually went on a silent retreat with campus ministry. So that's a really cool one where you don't have to be vocal and outwardly, put yourself on. It's more reflective. And I think a lot of programs that are offered too is very introspective in terms of, thinking about who you are and what you can bring in terms of to the community, but where do you want to go after this? Like Danielle was saying, like after your 4 years at Boston College, where do you see yourself? Where does your passion lie? So there's definitely opportunities for that more introverted person, because I think over the year have become more introverted, and there's definitely a balance that I've seen with offerings for programs for our students, that it's not just high energy, high engagement, you have to be on. So definitely I would say connect us to our specific offices, because we're definitely happy to kind of give them those key to programs that we know of and we can share, and obviously we connect them with specific students too.
Another question that's come through the chat that actually many moons ago in 1989, when I was attending BC or starting to go to BC in the fall, I was super worried about. I was not a partier, and I always thought college would, that's all it was socially. What do we have? What activities and things do we have on campus, especially on the weekends, for students who are not into that scene at all? And I survived, by the way. I never got into that scene.
I mean, there's a whole calendar of events and activities, and it starts with our fitness center that's open later on Friday and Saturday night. So there's always a place to kind of go and for students to hang out, and they have a rock wall, they have ping pong tables and things like that. So it's not just the fitness equipment that's in there as well. But there's other spaces for especially first year students to hang out at. On the upper campus, there's the O'Connell House, which has a pool table and some different areas and spaces for students to hang out. And so the organization that Ralph talked about earlier, the Campus Activities Board, oftentimes will have events on Friday and Saturday nights. They might have trips during the weekend as well. Some of the trips that get off campus and go into Boston, or go off and apple picking, or skiing during the winter, and so we try to get students off campus as much as possible. So there's lots of things to do on campus, and we actually do have a group of students who identify themselves as students who are not interested in that party atmosphere that sometimes comes with college. And we have a living learning community for those students, a special residence hall for those students, but we also, if those students identify themselves, then we put them into a program called Links, and they can connect with each other, with other students who are like-minded, and that group sponsors various activities throughout the weekend as well.
Great, thank you. Focusing a little bit more on parents, how often do you hear from them, and kind of what are some of their major concerns that they have as their child transitions away from home and into college?
You want me to speak? Do you want me to speak from my conduct perspective or from my student involvement perspective?
Or even your total parent perspective.
From the conduct perspective, I hear from parents a lot, and I think we have a very good handle on our conduct of our students. You know, for the most part, you know, students from time to time make poor decisions, but our conduct system is based on our Jesuit and Catholic values, which starts with reflection. We want them to be attentive, be reflective, and be loving is our mission as a Jesuit university. And we ask them to sort of be attentive to how their behavior might be impacting themselves and others. And we ask them to reflect on that and how that impacts a community. But that's about 99% of our students. I might be exaggerating a little bit. Do not go through the conduct system, but in terms of student involvement, no, we do. We will get the occasional phone call from parents, you know, in mid-September even, you know, to say, oh, my students just hasn't connected yet and hasn't you know, found their way yet. And quite honestly, I was one of those parents. My son is a senior now, and he hopefully he's not listening to this or has any friends on here, but he struggled his first year a little bit in terms of getting involved. And but I just told him be persistent, be you know, put yourself out there. And he really by you know, late semester of his first year as a freshman, he really was actively engaged, and to the point where now I think sometimes he's over engaged on campus. But as Rotha said earlier, you know, sometimes it's typical, you know, for students to struggle. And we try and normalize that and say, you know, it's okay, and that's all part of the growth process here. And so sometimes that happens with the parents, but I think we just have to, you know, make sure that we take a step back and allow, you know, our students to grow and develop on their own and learn to maybe struggle a little bit and build that resilience, and everything will work out in the end.
Our office, we don't typically hear from parents. Our students are advocates for themselves. A lot of them are first gen, so they are, you know, fighting for, you know, whether it's financial aid, assistance for books, and we try to help them as much as we can. So it's typically the students who come to us for help versus the parents. Yeah.
And kind of on that note, for, again, all of you, how do we help students kind of stay on track, first year students, with this whole new responsibility? You know, they're kind of, this generation of students is definitely that organizational kid, right? You know, they've kind of had everything laid out in a lot of ways, and now they're on their own. How do we help them kind of stay on track, be responsible, you know, become, you know, that resilience that Tom was talking about? You know, we offer any programs, counseling, things like that?
Sure. Yeah, okay, Danielle.
There's a few resources on campus that helps with students' academic coaching. So our library, the Connors Family Learning Center, has academic coaching where you can meet with mentors to help you, you know, time manage, whether stress management, just different, whatever you're dealing with, they will, you know, meet with you on a weekly basis to support you. Like I said, my office, we advise students on a weekly basis, as many times they want to meet, they can schedule appointments with us. And we support them with whatever they need. We have counseling services as well. We have a few counseling services where you can meet with a counselor if you need that support. We have the Office of Health Promotions that has time management workshops, stress management workshops. So there's a few different avenues on campus where you can get that help to kind of stay on track and navigate this new environment of being an independent college student. Tom?
Yeah, no, I would say I also serve as an academic advisor for students who come in as well, and some of my colleagues in student affairs also do that. And when we first meet with them, about, I would say, less than half of the meeting is about the academics, and more than half of the meeting is about how are you doing and how are you adjusting and how's your transition. And so we are encouraged and required to sort of ask those questions about students. So I think that's part of our mission in terms of caring for the whole person. Is even in an academic advising meeting, we're asking them about how they're transitioning. We're asking them about are they getting involved on things on campus, or do they have any questions or concerns that we can help them with, or help them navigate. So that's another way that we also look after students. I think our goal is to really put as many, as it's like a pinball machine. One of my colleagues in first year experience uses this analogy, and it's like a pinball machine, and we want to put up as many bumpers as possible so that the students keep bumping into different people along the way who will help them. So for that first year student, they have their RA who's a peer. They have their resident director who lives in the hall with them. Almost all of our halls have a resident minister, somebody from mission and ministry who lives in the hall. And so any given day, they can come in contact with all these different people. And it just sets up a nice support network for students, even by just simply being a BC student.
Thank you so much. And I think we have time for one more question. If each of you could kind of address this. Obviously all the academics and all the academic reasons why people go to BC aside, what's your top why a child should attend Boston College? What is it outside the academic piece that makes BC kind of special for each of you?
I think for me, and I did not go to Boston College as an undergrad, so my experience is strictly from the professional experience, but this is my third higher ed institution. And Boston College is unique where a lot of what they're doing, they're always sitting and reflecting on it. And so I think sometimes life kind of moves at you really quickly and you don't really have time to sit and process and then figure out what is next, or like how do you take meaning out of what is happening. And it's really because it's one of the big values is being reflective and be loving and be caring. I think the intention and the motivation, there's more thought that goes through things that are happening on campus, but also with students and their experience. And I think that it connects a lot of the dots for you especially when you're at that like stage in your life where you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your career, where do you want to go, where do you want to live, after college. So that reflective piece is a really crucial factor in shaping the experience of our students and kind of helping them develop into the leaders that we want them to be after they finish college in a more meaningful way than just going through the motions of college and then graduating after the 4 years and, all right, goodbye institution. So that reflective piece and that caring environment that we have at Boston College is very unique, I think, to the institution.
For me, obviously I went to BC. Now I work here, so it's transparent that I love BC. And I'm a New Yorker, and now I'm from, in Boston, so that's even whoa. But for me, speaking as an alum and a administrator, I think the care that BC provides for the students. I remember when I was a senior in high school, coming to campus, I just felt that feeling of belonging in that community. And I didn't even know, right? I didn't know anyone. And I just knew in my heart, this is somewhere I can see myself, from the service that BC offers, from the core curriculum of, the philosophy, the theology. having you think about who you are and who you want to be. Just kind of focused on that, creating that holistic person, that well-rounded person. I think it's super important. A lot of schools, you know, they want you to come, you know, academics and okay, bye. But BC really invest themselves in each and every student, no matter where you come from. And I think that is what makes BC special. It's that the Jesuit values of creating that holistic person, I think, is what makes BC very special. And if you come to BC, you will be supported. You know, that's one thing I can say as a student. I always felt supported. And then as an administrator, making sure that I'm always supporting students and going out my way to outreach. And because for some students, when I was a freshman, I didn't seek it, but I had people who pulled me in, right? And I think that's what's important. You know, having people who really, really care and will find you and, you know, make sure that you're getting that support that you need. So.
Yeah, I can't say it any better than Rolf and Danielle. So you have all that wonderful stuff that happens, you know, outside the classroom. And again, you know, our colleagues from Mission and Ministry do some wonderful retreats, especially for first year students, or something, an experience called the 48 hours, where they just go away in small groups and have this wonderful experience where they can have some real conversations about what it's like to be a first year student. So you have all these wonderful experiences. And then, oh yeah, by the way, you have some world-class academics here as well too. So as a parent, that's I love everything that has happened to my son over the course of, you know, his 4 years here in terms of how he grew and developed. But he also happens to be in arts and sciences and had an internship with a bank, you know, this past summer. So he's getting a great education that I think he's going to be able to do a lot with after he leaves as well. So I think it's the full package.
Can I just jump in quickly?
Oh, sure, Danielle, go ahead.
We're speaking as administrators, but it's the upperclassmen as well who are the ones who support the first year students, whether it's the RAs, like Tom said, the RAs, the orientation leaders. They're the ones who really have that one-on-one connection if they haven't, you know, met us in offices. So it's the upperclassmen who, when they were freshmen, had great mentors, and they continue to do that to make sure that the first year students feel welcome. And the same with alumni, making sure that they come back to BC, looking out for the current BC students for internships, for jobs, and it's that cycle of giving back to BC. So a lot of alum, you know, they graduate, but they still come back to BC to support the students who are there, to continue to, you know, continue that cycle. So, you know, it's us, and it's the upperclassmen, is the alumni as well, that create that entire community to make the first year students feel, you know, welcome at BC.
Absolutely. We are at the 9 o'clock hour, so I want to thank everybody so much for their wonderful information and for all of you for joining us. We know that virtually is not always the easiest way to get to know a college, but we are trying to give you so many opportunities to do that. So I encourage all of you who are in our audience to keep joining us for our Discover Boston College series. And we have other opportunities that you can virtually visit us, live stream tours and other things. So please go on to bc.edu/visit and you can learn more. But again, thank you so much for our panelists tonight for all this wonderful information, and all of you enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.